welcome back to my channel. My name is Sadarshi, and on this channel I talk about intentional living, global learning, and culture. On today's episode we have a very special guest.
Hi guys, it's Parth Suthaharan.
Welcome. So on today's episode we are going to be talking about a very important topic. It's something that the two of us have gone through, which is kind of why I pulled Parth into this episode, and also because he's a bit of an expert in the field. So we wanted to kind of talk about our experience in the hopes that it might help some of you guys who are watching. So the topic for today is
things to look out for when buying a house in Toronto.
So our first question was, what were our top priorities when looking for our house? One of the first things that we had to consider was location.
That's probably the most important thing for us.
Yeah, and for a lot of people it's not the most important thing, but we kind of wanted to be close to both of our parents' houses.
And we also wanted to be in an area where it's generally close to work.
We have a lot of friends that have moved out to Durham region, and they're like, when are you guys moving to Ajax or Pickering? But for us, you know, your non-negotiables vary from person to person. So we were like pretty strict on location. There would be times in our house hunt where we would find ourselves, you know, in Durham, in the East End, in Ajax, looking at a house, and it would be much bigger, much newer, much cheaper for the size especially. And then we kind of be like, okay, nope, scratch that. We do want to live in Scarborough.
I think we were willing to buy a smaller house in Scarborough versus a bigger house in Durham, just for the convenience.
That was important to us, but it might not be important to everyone. Who knows, maybe in the future we might end up in Durham. We'll see if we're willing to compromise on location.
We started looking around a lot in Scarborough, around Highway 401, just so it's easier access to work, getting to and from work and getting anywhere really. And we were finding that a lot of the houses in Scarborough were bungalows, which meant there was one story and a basement. And I think one thing you didn't like, was the fact that there was no real powder room.
Most of the bungalows that we were finding in Scarborough had one bathroom. I think for some people that doesn't really bother them. But for me, I kind of wanted a bathroom where I shower and I do my hair, my makeup, and brush my teeth and all that. I wanted that bathroom to be separate where all my products are, and sometimes it's a mess. I wanted that to be like my bathroom, and then I have a powder room for any guests that come over. So that pretty much took out like any bungalows from the running, because there was rarely a bungalow that had more than one bathroom on the main floor.
Another key factor that we were looking at was, this was our first house, so we're going to be living in together, and we're like, what if one of us gets laid off or loses our job? What happens? And we were thinking that, you know, we should find a house that has a separate entrance or an access to the basement where we could possibly rent it out, right? In case we lose our jobs, or just to have like another source of income if we ever need to.
Then we started looking, okay, on top of the location, does it also have either the side entrance or side entrance potential? So that means like there would be the potential for a door to be put in right beside the steps leading down to the basement. You could potentially buy that house and break the wall, the brick, and put a door in there. So that's that side entrance potential. Plus,
yeah, basically the stairs leading down to the basement had to be along one side of the house, not in the center. And we also needed 4 feet to the property line in order to be able to put a side entrance door legally. We also wanted to kind of stay away from having to do a lot of maintenance on our house.
Or even like problems that were like patched up by previous owners.
Yeah, a lot of these, they were renovated, but we didn't know what was behind the walls, whether it was done properly or whether it was a good job. We were also looking at that as well. We noticed that they were built, like 40, 50 years ago, or even more than that. And we wanted to try to find a house that was newer in Scarborough, just so we don't have to deal with a lot of the upkeeping and the maintenance involved in when you purchase an older home. So we started looking out in Scarborough, or even Markham, and trying to find a newer house. But it was very hard to find new houses in Scarborough, or at least a new subdivision. But then we came across an area where I think it was built after 2000, and it was built by Madame, and it was exactly halfway between both of our families' houses. Why did we want to have a newer house? I think they're built to the newer Ontario Building Code standards. They're more airtight, they're more energy efficient. You don't have cold spots in the house generally. Right, better ventilation. There's HRV systems in newer houses, better windows, a lot less maintenance and upkeeping of the house.
Less surprises, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
So the next question is, what were the nice to haves when you were purchasing your home in Toronto?
So I think the first thing was the layout of the house. I wanted an open concept, but then you didn't mind the open concept, but you wanted a separate space.
Yeah. I still wanted like a nook, like a place where there was still privacy from the open concept. I didn't want it to just be all only open concept where like everyone just sees everything at all times.
So some of the nice to haves are the finishes in the house, obviously, right? Hardwood flooring, granite countertops, nice kitchen, lighting. But we weren't too focused on all of that because we knew we didn't have to move into a house right away, and we could do some renovations to our likings. Actually, we preferred a house that wasn't renovated.
Yeah, it kind of throws you off because you walk into this really nicely staged and renovated house. Obviously, that's selling for higher, right? So you come in and you're like, wow, this house is so beautiful. But at the same time, there could be a house that maybe isn't as nicely staged and isn't fully renovated, but that means you can basically renovate it to your own liking. And I think that's what happened with us. Like when we saw our house, I think a lot of people might have looked at it and been like, oh, like it's not really that nice. But if you like the structure of the house, then certain things like the paint and the floors, you can furnish it to your liking, and then the house can completely transform into something that is beautiful, but it's just kind of like misleading. This one's kind of like a combination of was a must-have versus a nice-to-have. So
I think for me it was a nice to have, but for you it was a must-have.
Yeah. So I don't know, it felt like forever that we were searching for our house, and so Parth was a little bit more like looking at all different types of homes, including like semi-detached type of homes. And every once in a while I'd like come with you and look at those houses and be like, maybe. I was pretty fixed on like, let's get a detached home, let's have our privacy from anyone else, and if we want to make changes to our home, we have full control over making changes to our own home. So like there were times when he was just like, let's just get like, you know, this semi fits all of our requirements, let's just get it. And I'd just be like, nope, like, no, no. And we'd be so close, but I was just like, no, like, let's, in the end, it was always a no. And so we ended up getting a detached, and then Mr. over here.
I ended up liking it.
Some of the semis were nicer than our house, but for me, it was more like, even if it was like bigger and nicer, I just still wanted the separation. So I guess it's a preference
I guess
thing.
more privacy.
So the next question is, what were your obstacles when you were purchasing your house in Toronto?
We looked at a house. It was in a really nice area in Markham. It was like walking distance to our parents' house. We ended up putting an offer on the house. It got accepted, and luckily we had a condition to do a home inspection on the house. I was very happy with it, and then he looks at me at the end of the home inspection, and then he goes, "What do you think about those hydro towers behind your backyard?" And I was like, what about them? So what? Hundreds and thousands of people live next to a hydro corridor. Why does that matter? And he was like, I just want you to know about it. Just look into it. I just want you to be comfortable living next to a hydro corridor. So I was like, I didn't mind it because there was no backyard neighbors, right? Because he pulls out an EMF reader, electromagnetic field reader, and I held it and I looked at the gauge and it shot right up, I think to the max. And then he's like, yeah, see, the EMF reading is high inside here because you're next to hydro towers. I'm like, so what does this mean for me? He went above and beyond to point out something that
could be problematic.
That night, right after our home inspection, we went home and we started doing some research. We went on a World Health Organization,
the Government of Canada's website.
Yeah, and then some
private like,
cancer research websites.
So the websites were telling us that there's no correlation between living near these hydro towers on your health, but then it also say there's still not enough research to make any conclusions, meaning like this information can change at any point. So at any point they can say like, actually it does have negative effects on our health. And then there was private research that was done that actually said that there was a direct link between children living near hydro towers and the rate of childhood leukemia. And so the more and more research we did, like it was either like super vague or it was saying that there was a connection. So for us, it didn't sit right with us. And we didn't feel
comfortable.
Yeah, we just didn't feel comfortable, and we're like, you know what, at the end of the day, even if there's absolutely no correlation and all of that information is false, it's still gonna be in our heads. And so we had about 2 days to like make the decision, and we ended up saying no to the house. And then we were back to square one.
Yep. Here's another obstacle that we faced. At the time that we were buying our house, the houses were getting sold really, really fast. Like they would come on the market and they'd be sold within like a week. And if we had put any sort of condition on the house, like we wanted to do financing or home inspection, most likely there were other offers that didn't have any sort of clauses or conditions, which those offers were preferred over ours. So we wanted to make sure that we'd be able to put an offer on a house without any condition if we needed to. Luckily on the Markham house, the one next to the hydro tower, we were able to put a condition because we weren't competing with anyone. But for another house I think we were looking at, we wanted to make sure that we would have our finances in place. So before we look for a house, we got a pre-approval done. Basically says how much we would qualify for based off our annual income. And we made sure we had the down payment before we started looking around very seriously.
All right, so that was the end of our questions. And just to wrap up, we are going to share maybe one key takeaway that each of us have. My takeaway would be just to know what your non-negotiables are, and that way you can be really focused when it comes to your house hunting. So just like we had our must-haves, our unique must-haves, you should also think about what your must-haves are.
I would say budget for closing costs. This includes, I guess, two big fees: land transfer tax and legal fees. Legal fees are a couple $1,000, maybe you're looking at around $2,000. But land transfer tax, especially in city of Toronto, is very high. So for an average $1 million home, you're looking at about, I think, $32,000 in taxes when you buy. But outside of the city of Toronto, it's half of that. So just budget in for that when you're looking for a house.
All right guys, that brings us to the end of our video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to say, please comment below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions for us, I mean, we did learn a lot through the whole experience and the journey. And so if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. By us, I mean Parth. Alright guys, I will see you next time. Peace and love.
Stay safe, guys.